Hi there, this is Cindy Harrison, and I'm host of Create This. Thank you for joining me on this lovely Friday night. Let's get started. So thank you all for being here, and I have this lovely project to show you tonight. It's actually an upcycled box, and let me turn my camera around and we will get started. So everyone is dying to know what this box was when we started, right? It's a twining tea box. Tea bags come in this. That's all it is. So instead of recycling or throwing them out, let's upcycle them. I started, because this is raised or embossed actually, I started by taking some spackle or paste of some sort and putting it over the areas that were embossed so I can kind of smooth it out. And then you sand it with a piece of sandpaper or sanding disc just to make it all smooth. So you make sure you start with a smooth surface everywhere. Rough it up just a little bit with that sanding disc to give it some tooth to accept some gesso. So the next step, after you fill in the embossed places, let that dry, sand the whole box, and then paint over it with gesso, which is just a very thick white, like paint. It has an agent in it to make it really thick, so it covers much faster than it would. It's like a Kills or a Bins in the construction painting world when you're painting your walls. After I did that, and as you can see, I mean, there's still some things showing through. But after I did that, I base coated it with white paint. I put a cover or two of just some white acrylic paint on it. Now, this one here, this is a napkin that I decoupaged on the top. I found a stencil that kind of matched the print in the napkin, so I just brought that down here. This is black with red leaves, and this is red with black, but it's okay. I'm just repeating that pattern. I painted the edge black, and again, it just harmonizes that whole piece. Tonight, I'm going to use a different napkin. And I am just a napkin hoarder. Everyone in the craft world, or most everyone knows by now, I just am a napkin hoarder. I love napkins, and I have several bins full. So this one here, I thought was very simple yet very elegant, and I love the colors. So what you do is pick a napkin you like, go out and look at some paints that match that napkin, and that tells you what colors you're going to use for this class or for this project. The next thing you have to do is you take your napkin and pull the layers apart. Most napkins are at least a 3-ply. So the first layer usually comes off really easy. The second layer, however, is harder to get apart. So the trick is that a friend taught me, if anyone knows Kelly Hernig, she taught me this trick. You roll your tape around, take your paper, stick the tape on the corner, and voila, comes right apart. So that's how you get those apart. Once they're apart, you'll have a nice thin layer of paper. You should be able to see right through it. Because tissue paper, when decoupaged on a surface, turns clear, you want to make sure that your surface is white or a light neutral color, so that when you put this, decoupage this on there, it's not going to be colored. And that's why I also painted it, so that this print doesn't show up. So I'm going to take my box. I looked at the level of this cover here, and I drew a line all the way around, and then I painted it with the dark value, which is, I used Pebble for this one. Now I'm going to decoupage this, and I want to decoupage the bottom half versus the top this time. So I'm going to take some Scotch tape or whatever, masking tape, and I'm going to put it on that line. And what's good, a good tip is to fold over that tape so it'll be easier for you to remove later. Fold that down. I like using Americana decoupage for napkin. I don't know if you see that, the napkin formula, because it's made for napkins. It'll be better. It won't tear your napkin as easily. If you use regular decoupage, Mod Podge, any of those, that it could possibly tear the napkin a lot faster than you want to do that, to get it on there. Now, if it does tear, it's not the end of the world, but we kind of not want to tear it if we can at all help it. Not in this case. I would suggest you take an old scruffy brush, not one of your good ones, and I'm going to take some decoupage, and I'm just going to apply it right to my surface. And if you go in both directions, you will cut down the opportunity to gain clumps. I'm going to start by putting this on. Smooth it out, and then I'm going to put another layer of decoupage over it. Go right on. You can decoupage it right to the tape. If it wrinkles, that's okay too. What I'm seeing is the decoupage might be making the red run a little bit on here. Put that on there. Now I'm going to tear. I'm going to tear this side over here. Oopsie. If you wet it, you can tear it right off, right at that line. I'm going to move it up, open this up, and take another piece of tape and go around that edge. So you can do this around all the sides. It's not long enough. I know. It's okay. Be patient. Take your time. Don't rush this process. And you'll get through it. Now you can continue. Make sure you don't have too much on your brush. Go both directions. This way here, you don't have any buildup. And now I'm going to put that right down on top of that. Smooth it out. Try not to lift. Because it will tear. Now, if it happened that it teared on me, all I would have to do is tear another piece of napkin and decoupage that right on top. Now, I can't go any further with this right now because I wanted to show you what it looked like here. But this definitely needs at least 2 coats of white paint before I continue. And then the darker beige color up there. But that's pretty much how you get that bottom on. Okay. For the top, I want to create a complementary design that's not too out of character with the bottom tissue paper. I chose, with the help of my best friend, a stencil. Put out, I got this at actually Home Depot, and it's a folk art put out by Plaid curly stencil. And it complements the curls on the napkin. I'm going to place that on top of my piece. Now, if you feel the need to tape it down on the side, then go right ahead. I'm going to bring it over so that my curlies fall off the edges. They go on beyond the edges. And I'm going to do them in a couple different colors. I've got a baby pink and let's go with the dove gray. And that's going to be my swirls. How do we apply them? You get packing foam in with electronics sometimes and stuff instead of the popcorn or the bubbles, the air bubbles. And I cut them up and make them into sponges. So what I'm going to do is, I can bring this over a little bit here. I'm going to pick up some of the pink and smush it around on my sponge. You don't want it to be a clump of paint. Pick up some of that gray on the other side of my sponge, smush that around so it's smooth, and I'm going to start to pounce. And if I have the 2 colors on there, you can lift to see what it looks like. And I know right now it doesn't look like much on the, but I will show you in a second. Some pink and some gray. If you have a stencil brush, which would be a brush that has very firm white bristles, you can go ahead and use that as well. This kind of will leave a textured look, and I think that'll be kind of cool. Because on the napkin, I see where it looks a little pixelated, and this will give you that pixelated look. Let's pick up some pink. I'm gonna add a little bit more pink. Always blend it out on your palette because you don't want a big clump of that pink showing up. There we go. I think we got it. Let's see what it looks like. Ta-da! See? And you can tell where I pressed a little too hard there. I had a little too much paint on my sponge, pressed a little hard and it bled through. But isn't that cool? And it really nicely harmonizes with the napkin. You want to wash your stencil off right away. You don't want all that paint to dry on there. I'm just going to rinse mine off right here with a napkin. And as you can see, I take my wet paintbrush and I go right over while it's on its napkin. Not everybody does this, but as you can see, I didn't do it before. I'd like to try and do it after every use. And you can use hand sanitizer if you're in a pinch. And you want to be very careful on this particular one because these are very delicate. And if you bend those up, you chance ruining your stencil. So putting that aside, now I want to further decorate this top. And I had another stencil that I thought was really cool. And it has the word dream on it. So my thoughts were, if I place this on the top of my box, like so, and I'm going to pick the darker of the pink values. If you don't have dream, print it out on some copy paper. If you have a laser, a laser printer, not an inkjet printer. You're going to print it out on copy paper and you could decoupage that on here and then do your stencils over it. And that would be fun. This time I'm going to find that brush that I told you about. It's a very stiff white bristle brush. Pick up some of that paint, wipe some of it off, and I'm going to start to scrub that color on here. I always want to wipe off the paint so that it doesn't bleed underneath. You're using very little paint when you do this, when you stencil. Swirl it around, wipe off the excess, and start back over where you stopped. Okay, let's see what this looks like. Dream. And see where, again, learn by my mistakes. You see where it's heavier? That's because I had too much paint on my brush. So I'm going to take that off of there. Next, let's go and add this little, this was to cover that indented area. There's this little low lip here. So I used this medallion to cover that area. And I made this medallion out of canvas paper. And if you have a die cut or a paper punch, you can cut that out and then we'll paint that. The one I made for tonight, I just made out of cardstock, just plain cardstock. You can use manila folder. You can use paper plate. So think about what things you have in your house and you can use that. If you have an old cereal box, you can cut out a design, trace it on and cut out a design out of the cereal box and paint that. Sky's the limit here. And this was a little die cut, or if you have a paper punch, you can punch it out. Another thing you can do is if you have a rubber stamp a piece of cardstock and then cut out with the rubber stamp. I added sugar and a bead, one of those bugle beads for the body there. You see that? you can do that as well. But I'm not going to do that on today. I'm going to take my cardstock, and I painted both sides white so that it settled it down. And now I'm going to softly hit the sides with a light pink. Now you can do that with your brush, or you can do that with your sponge. I'm going to go with this brush and see how this works. Wipe off most of it and then start to hit the edges. And I'm making circular motions, circle, circle, circle. Not real sugar. It's not real sugar, correct. It is called diamond dust, sorry. It's called diamond dust. And I do sell it on my website. And make small circles and bring that color around. I like doing it on a paper towel so I can not have to clean up too much on my table. Try to stay on the paper. Nice, soft, hazy color around the edges. See that? I don't know, it's hard to see, I know, with white. Let me see if I can make this any better for you. See it? It's very just a halo around there. Okay, come in a little bit. And is this dry yet? Okay. This is going to go right there, right over that little indentation. But before I do that, I want to decorate it. This one here that says thinking of you was a rubber stamp that I rubber stamped on that. So you could take this one, I'd do that on a smooth surface, and take your rubber stamp, and instead of using ink, because you again want it to match your decor here, what your palette is. The napkin determines what your palette is, the colors you're using. And you want this to match that. What I would do with this is, if I wanted to use these words, take your sponge, I'm going to pick up some of that dark paint and swirl it around so that my sponge is full of that color. And now I'm going to tap it over my rubber stamp. Make sure there's no water in your sponge. And I'm tapping it gently until I just touch the surface of the raised surface of the rubber stamp. I like the clear blocks because you can see where you're placing it. Place it down, press evenly, and then peel away, and you have your saying. Now I could use that. I could do the halo around that and put that there. But I thought for today's show, I would do something different. And that would be, again, wash that off right away. You don't want the acrylics to dry on there because it will fill in the holes, and then you won't be able to use the stamp anymore. It won't come out clear. I found these lovely little transparent flowers at Michael's today. So what I'm going to do is take some of my tacky glue. Oops. And I'm going to glue this on. Let's see. I got a little stuck. I'm going to have to unstick it. So take that, I'm going to put glue around there so I know that it will stay on. And put it right on there. Open this up. And then I'm going to take some of these flowers out. And there's so many choices for flowers and thing paraphernalia that you can put on there in the scrapbook section of your store. So I'm thinking I'll go. Do I go too dark and one light, or do I do too light and one dark? Maybe I'll do that. So I'm going to stick those on there. Again with my tacky glue. And overlap those. If you don't have the means to find these, you can make them yourself. Put that there like that. And I'm going to stick one up here. So when, let's hold that down until it sets up. When this is dry, all you have to do, if you decoupaged it onto the napkin, all you have to do is take a ruler. I'm going to take my little 6-inch ruler and put it against the edge of the tape, where the tape edge is, and then hold that down and pull the tape up. Then I'll go over here, hold that down, and open this up. And see this one, I didn't decoupage. I didn't decoupage the napkin to the tape, so the napkin stayed on. So I'm going to have to tear that one. Okay, so when it didn't stay on, what you do is you put this napkin down. Sorry, you put the tape down on that edge, and then you pull and hope that the napkin comes with it. So that's a lesson. Always decoupage the napkin right onto the tape, and it will come off real easy. So that's it for tonight. I hope you enjoyed this project. Come back and visit us next week when we create this. Have a wonderful, this is a, by the way, it's a box, but it's a cupcake. So have a wonderful weekend, and thank you for joining me tonight. Thank you for watching the replay.